40 years from now, Ludwig II will be murdered. By himself, or by the doctor who had declared his mind unsound, or by an assassin hired by disgruntled statesmen, or by fear and ambition, his own or that of others, or by the gentle, nudging tide of the Wurmsee, or by some symphony of these, or by none of them. His body will be found, drowned in the shallow of the reeds, his doctor floating a few feet away, his jacket turned inside out on dry land, missing a bullet hole's worth of fabric, or not. His cousin, Empress Sisi of Austria, waiting across the lake, will think she hears a cry and pace the shores, wondering if her kindred could possibly be strong enough to swim all that way. But before that, because the story will unfold no differently if you learn the outcome now or later, because the ending will confound you no matter where it finds you, because if you combine enough answers, they don't look much different than a question, it is best if you know now. Before Ludwig II is found dead, he will live with such a violence of feeling that his body will shake when he witnesses extreme beauty. When, on stage, Elsa makes the mistake of asking the Knight of the Swan his true nature and learns that he is, in fact, Lohengrin, protector of the Grail, Ludwig's sensitivity will force him from his box seat to throw up in a bucket positioned just out of view of the audience. Ludwig will invert his fortune by paying for operas he cannot afford. He will call for castle after castle to be built, never finishing a single one, his vision always outpacing the material world. Ludwig will row out to a small, secluded island and snag his way through rose bushes, Alpenfees and Eurydices and Gretels, the names of which he prefers cupping in his mouth to lacing their sweet perfumes through his nose, tucking himself into their sturdy leaves and buxom blossoms, trying to escape bad news. But it will find him again and again. After all of this, Ludwig's cabinet of ministers, frustrated, maybe even convinced they are in the right, would declare him mad. They'll make a list of his indiscretions, and read it so many times they'll lose track of which items are bolstered by evidence and which will crumple under the slightest stress, like a plaster model never replaced by its marble heir. Rightfully, wrongfully, they will pay a doctor to guarantee Ludwig's lack of sanity without having met him, and they will depose him and lock him away in a castle-cum-asylum. This is after Ludwig has been named king at 18, a young man forced to rule too young, a romantic hero to the Bavarian people, crowned with a job he was not designed for. Born 7 years before her cousin, Sisi will always treat Ludwig like a little brother, sharing her own experiences on this parallel path of royal obligation, but her powers of empathy will repeatedly be pushed to their modest limit. The demands placed on an empress are different than those exacted from a king. Sisi will lose an infant, resent a daughter to the point of neglect, suffer the suicide of her son, and suffocate a fourth child with all the devotion she denied the others. She will flaunt her loyalty to the Kingdom of Hungary, even to the point of snubbing the Austrian Empire. Deemed the most beautiful woman in Europe in her youth, she will stop sitting for portraits at age 32. In fact, she will stop sitting almost entirely, filling her days with walking and riding to keep her figure trim, shrinking herself to hide from all those prying eyes.